Dear friends, this is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with the 31 days of gangster films and cop films from the year 1970 to the present day. And so it is my hope that this can afford us, you and I, with the opportunity and chance to talk about as many films as possible over the course of these 31 days. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you, those of you who have joined me along for this ride, for this journey so far. It has been such a great pleasure for me to be able to hear from you, to get your perspectives and takes on films that I have mentioned or maybe have not mentioned too. Now, that's also great to hear from you about other films you think are worth mentioning, and things that, or titles that might appear or that do appear on, say, your particular lists and the like. So that is always such a great pleasure for me to read and to absorb and to learn about. So thank you very much for always giving me that chance to get to know you as well and to learn from you and your experiences and your perspectives and great takes on this thing that we all love, which is cinema. And that brings us specifically to these two genres, the police film genre and the gangster film genre. And for purposes of today, specifically this video, I'd like to talk about the police film genre, or a film that can be described as being within the police film genre. I think it is because we have a main character, or a couple of main characters, or a number of characters actually, that are said to be, or that can be described as being characters who are officers of the law, police officers or detectives, and specifically in the context of Los Angeles, and even specifically within the context of a single day, as it were, or this time of limited period of time, from the early hours to very late. And so it has this almost pressure cooker type of intensity about it. And you can feel the atmosphere almost oozing off of the screen. It is that wonderfully palpable and that well applied and that cinematically rich and intense. This is a really absorbing, highly almost. It has a type of roller coaster type of atmosphere to it, because it has so many twists and turns, and it really guides us along and brings us along on this incredible, breathtaking journey that is always solidified by the brilliant performances and the suspense and the turns of events, and events leading to events leading to events, and that lead and accumulate to this overall wonderful, entertaining, enthralling, and, as I say, quite absorbing and oftentimes shocking in a cinematic way work. This film that I said can be described as being within the police film genre. It is described as being a film from 2001, and it is from the director Antoine Fuqua and writer David Ayer, and it stars, among others in its great cast, Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. And I'm speaking of the film, which is Training Day. Training Day. Wow. I spoke about how this film grabs hold of you immediately, and it never lets up. And that is a great thing. And the way that it grabs you and captivates your attention and never lets up is, I think, in large part to do with the wonderful pacing of the film. We start off with this conceit of a day or something. Training Day is the name of the film. And then, of course, we have this notion of the younger police officer, seemingly maybe ambitious, or maybe still somewhat, relatively speaking, inexperienced, but wanting to seek experience in guidance, and perhaps even career, maybe some kind of career step achievement or elevation of sorts. And that brings him, of course, to meeting this is the Ethan Hawke character, Officer Hoyt character, and this leads to the immediate, or almost immediate, meeting and interaction and beginnings of the relationship between his character and the Denzel Washington character, the Alonzo Harris character. And this is the the officer, the detective, who is a narcotics officer. So he is delegated with the authority to investigate crimes or make inquiries with regard to narcotics-related events or incidents or situations, etc. And so this is the situation. We have the veteran police detective, the Denzel Washington character, on one side of the table, and then we have the younger, somewhat inexperienced but seeking experience, younger police officer, the Ethan Hawke character, the Officer Hoyt character. And so we have these two, and the idea is that the younger officer will accompany the veteran officer, the experienced officer, detective, around for the course of the day with regards to accompanying the Alonzo Harris character's own various adventures and situations and the like. And the idea being is that this is meant for the younger officer to somehow gain on-site experience, work experience, very valuable work experience, and maybe also with the possibility of getting some kind of career advancement along the way. So that is the conceit of this film, essentially training day on paper. When we get into the film, almost immediately we realize something is afoot. Something is rotten, to borrow a phrase from Hamlet or paraphrase. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Perhaps, maybe, who knows? A little inkling, a little feeling in the air. Those feelings begin to accumulate more and more. As I say, too, this is in the context of Los Angeles, and the pressure cooker feeling slowly accumulates, and we realize that what we are seeing, this idea of a so-called training day or on-site experience in the context of narcotics, police investigations, and the like, of various scenarios that might seem to be maybe totally episodic or not necessarily directly related to each other. We realize that there is something going on, and there's something slowly building that leads to maybe the feeling or intuition or perhaps even revelation or discovery of things and forces at play that are sinister, that are unsavory, that are dangerous, that might lead also to the potential of corruption, police corruption, and the moral rot of this type of apparatus or specific parts of the law enforcement apparatus, or to be even more specific, the maybe specific figures that are within this apparatus of law enforcement. And we see how this young officer, the Ethan Hawke officer, tries to deal with the various situations and tries to confront the various situations that he faces as he is accompanying the detective, Alonzo Harris character, along the way. And so here we have this brilliantly conceived dynamic that, as I say, sets up so many expectations and almost in this cinematic flourish way that is invigorating, exciting, and quite bold. We see some of those setups either dashed before our very eyes, and then they are replaced by these sudden turns of surprise and shock, or we see actually setups that are carried through a type of logical conclusion, and we see therefore a sense of clash and confrontation. And that clash and confrontation is also set up so brilliantly. In other words, clash and confrontation or perhaps closeness and makings of creating allies. So are we in a world with allies or are we in a world with enemies? And so we have this constant sense of tension, the potential of clash and confrontation, or the hope for some kind of connection and unity, and therefore a type of spirit of cooperation. What will win out in the end? And so everything is up for grabs. The stakes are quite high, and that is personified so brilliantly by the back and forth relationship between Denzel Washington's character and Ethan Hawke's character. That forms the backbone of that particular formulation of the various themes or metaphors that can be said to be arising from this brilliant work, Training Day. Are we in a world where we can trust the other? Or are we in a world where there is nothing but double cross? Or are we in a world where that double cross is applied because the world is indeed an ugly and immoral place? And in order to do good deeds, we need to engage with unsavory elements of society and the world in order to protect the innocent? Or are we in fact dealing with quote unquote immoral people doing quote unquote immoral things? What is it? What's going on? What is it that's going on before our very eyes? Do we actually believe what it is we're hearing? Do we want to believe it? If we do, how do we feel by the end of the film? If we feel that way in the first place, etc., etc. And it is all presented here in this great, great manner. So stylish, so wonderfully evocative and involved. And I think that dynamic, that tension, that feeling of what we are in for is a totally unexpected sense of swirl of circumstance and surroundings. I think that is due to the great interaction between these characters. And I must say, Denzel Washington has received so many accolades and laudatory praise and attention for this particular performance as Alonzo Harris. And for good reason, because he is electrifying. He is utterly electrifying. He's suave, he is charismatic, he is suddenly abrasive and suddenly jarring, and he turns on a dime within a split second, which is so startling, so shocking, so alluring, so hypnotizing and mesmerizing. And we realize over the course of this day what it is he is in for, and what it is he has been thinking, and what it is he has been, in a sense, planning, and how that plays in to the overall dynamic of the situations that he is engaged in today, and the situations regarding which he also brings along the Ethan Hawke character, the Officer Hoyt character. And this, too, is the other side of that brilliant dynamic. Ethan Hawke's performance here is so itself, too, in its own great way, mesmerizing and intense. And one understands the type of perspective that he holds. In many ways, he is in the place that we, the viewer, might find ourselves in, especially when we are being introduced to this world for the first time. And we have, therefore, many themes play out: experience versus inexperience, danger versus playing it safe. How far can one take playing by the rules, or serving out law enforcement injustice within the bounds of the rules? Or maybe are there those circumstances where we need to go outside of those rules? And do those circumstances or situations amount to what might be called police corruption or other things? That's not all. We also have this idea of race and race relations. We also have the idea of class and situations of the sort in the context of Los Angeles of the day. And so those, I think, are either direct or inherent in each scene, and they also go in ways that I think are quite intriguing. And they end up, and they also play in a way that could be said to be directly related to the plot and the plot dynamics, and how, say, the sense of community exists or doesn't exist, depending on the perspectives of the various characters in question. So this is all embedded within the dynamic of this startling film. It is very, very exciting, and it is all to do with the elements included in which are the great performances. And there are so many other great actors here as well. I can mention, for example, Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or Scott Glenn, etc. There's so many great performances here, and they all combine and contribute to this palette of pressure and tension, and the sense of maybe thinking that one knows what the situation is, but then realizing through the unraveling, maybe things are not the way that one thinks they were when one started, if you know what I mean. And that is part of the great sense that one gets when viewing a work like Training Day. It is a remarkable achievement. It does go, of course, over the top in a lot of places, arguably. Yes, and but it does so, I think, in great measure, and it has I think, that great sense of a cinematic style and flourish. I mean, this is a work of cinema, and in that way, I think it achieves what it sets out to do, and then some, in equal measure. What a great film this is, and I'm so happy to be able to speak about it in the context of the police films over the course of the 31 days. This work, directed by Antoine Fuqua. This is the work that is Training Day. Okay, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.